Hey, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another YouTube video. This time we're going to go over my Gogeta ramp deck profile. This is a deck that I've really been enjoying testing in this current format. I would say the current format consists of a few decks. The top dogs probably being Shenron, Super Shenron, and Dende AOD, which in my opinion are I've called in the past cheese decks. You assemble your combo, you don't really give your opponent a fair shot of playing the game. I'm not a personal fan of playing decks like that, and then the rest of the format I would say consists of like Green Broly, Skillless, and this deck has made a few splashes here and there. So this alongside Skillless is another deck that I've been enjoying testing for a few reasons I'll get to in the video. I've also seen a lot of you guys ask for Gogeta ramp decks, and I thought I'd share what I've been testing with you guys. So before we get into the video, guys, if you're new to the channel, definitely hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you stay up to date with all awesome Dragon Ball Super content that I do post here. Check out the Discord server in the description below. Excellent group of people for just talking about the Dragon Ball Super card game and all that good stuff. And finally, guys, if you're new to the channel, or if you are a longtime fan of the channel, or if you want to read some competitive content, check out the Patreon down below. It's got a little bit of something for everybody, especially the articles that I post a few times a week. Really help you get the competitive edge, and it helps me bring you guys this content. So with that being said, we'll get into the video. So we've got the Gogeta ramp leader. Now, this is definitely one of the lower decks on the radar, but it can do a lot of powerful things, which I really like about it. And it also draws a whole ton of cards. So real quick, what the leader does on the unawakened side, once per turn, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add a red Son Goku or Vegeta BR, or a blue Veku, and add it to your hand. So it's really important that you remember the colors, because there is a red Veku in this deck that we play that your leader unfortunately can't search, but nonetheless, you don't want to get caught cheating, so we do want to remember that. Awaken, untap 2, and then Gogeta the Unstoppable. This is the leader out of the Broly pack that came with the yellow Broly leader. Yellow Broly is like 10 bucks or so. This guy's only around 3, 4, 5, but he's a really powerful leader. I'm surprised he's not worth more, so pick up your copy while it's cheap. This guy's definitely going to be a really strong contender, especially in the future, especially if something happens to, Shenron decks. So on the backside, typical attack draw card. Activate main. Really important to notice, this is not once per turn, but it does cost 2 energy. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards and place it at the bottom of the owner's deck. So this actually is really good against Green Broly. You literally, your leader's answers their boss monster, and you have a ton of energy after you ramp with the one of the main cards in the deck. So you can just answer any single piece of the chain they bring out consecutively in some cases, which is really good. Remember, it's not once per turn. Now the next activate main is once per turn. You get to choose one of your energy, place it in the drop area, draw 2 cards. So typically on turn 3, you're going to play your ramp card, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and you're going to get to 5 energy on your opponent's turn, and then on your turn you'll charge to 6. You're going to typically play down the Dragon Fist if you have it. You're going to attack on tap 2, maybe you'll awaken on tap 2 more, maybe you can play a 4-drop like hit, and then typically, depending on the situation, you can sack your 7th or 6th energy every single turn. So you're still going to end turn with 5 energy, or maybe 6 if you're sacking your 7th, and you're just going to draw 2 cards. So this leader draws a ton of cards, which is really good, especially in the current format we're in, where you need to play a lot of strong defense. So we'll get into the main deck. 3 Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan. I'm a real big fan of this card for a few reasons. One of which, a lot of builds I've seen only played at all cost Vegeta, and you guys may have heard on the channel, like from other videos, I'm really not a fan of that card in decks that don't play yellow, because I think it's just a card that puts you in an awkward situation. A lot of times you'll put yourself down to 1 or 2 life, so you get triple strike, you'll attack, and it'll just lose to a negate, right? Now that can be mitigated with cards like Foreseeing Hit, but you can hit someone on a given turn, and then you never know what cards they draw into the next turn, right? And it can be difficult to drop a hit and a Vegeta in this deck, because you do want to be sacking your energy to draw cards, so you're not just going to infinitely ramp all the time. So back to what I was saying, I don't like Vegeta for that. I don't like Vegeta for the self-awakening, because by turn 4, most decks are going to awaken you. And if they're not awakening you by turn 4, your deck plays so many bomb cards that I feel like you don't need at all costs anyway. So I like Dark Power Black by Sam, because there are those instances where I want to get myself from like 6 to 4 life or 5 to 4 life, and my opponent just won't awaken me. Sometimes they will stall you out there. And this card's also really good against Super Shenron. So I did want to main deck this. I teched this deck to beat Super Shenron, because that is the most, in my opinion, oppressive deck in the format. So I wanted this deck to have a leg up in the race, right? So the Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, if you guys don't know what it does, when your opponent plays a battle card with a non-keyword skill that is 15k or less, they're forced to discard 2 cards. So if they don't open the Crisis Crusher, this is going to punish them for playing their Bulmas. And I've talked about this in previous videos. If you wait for them to already commit to a board, they're not going to be able to drop Crisis Crusher for 1 energy, right? So if you wait for them to drop maybe their first Bulma, or maybe like a 1-drop crit attacking Krillin, you can drop the Mass Sand and not really be too afraid of Crisis Crusher. So that card is really, really good in the right situations in that matchup, and the Self-Awakening is important as well. 4 Sense of Being, 4 Dimension Magic, your defensive package, along with the Super Combo and the Unbreakable. You need to have that defense, right? Especially against Super Shenron, like I said. Dimension Magic's incredible. Typically in this deck, I'll charge 4 red and 2 blue, just so you get maximum value out of Dimension Magic. And the most blue you're really ever going to need in this deck is 2 for like your Dragon Fist and your Gogeta 5-drop. So 2 is all you need to get the max value out of Dimension Magic, and like the extra red energy lets you go into like multiple foreseeing hits in a turn, which is really good. So yeah, I like that. I like this defensive package for those reasons. Being, of course, really good against Super Shenron. Then we have the main guy of the deck, the Veku Defective Fighter. So if you guys don't know what this does, this is the key piece of the deck, so we'll read it real quick. He's a 5-drop, 10k. He does Union Fusion for 3, so typically you're going to tap out on 3 for this guy. You're going to fuse a red Goku and a red Vegeta BR from your hand to the drop area. He's a blocker with Barrier, so your opponent really doesn't have too many ways to out this card. And when this card is KO'd, if your leader card is a blue Gogeta, which our leader is, you can get any Goku and any Vegeta back from your drop area. So kind of nifty how you can kind of pick and choose, depending on the situation, what Goku, what Vegeta you need. So you grab those back, and then you take the top 2 cards of your life, add them to your energy in active mode, by the way. If you're curious about that, if you're not sure, it is in active mode. So that's how you get, on turn 3 when your opponent attacks with anything. You definitely want to time this block right. So a lot of decks on turn 3 do really crazy things, like Super Shenron, like AOD Boo, Buhan, Dende deck, that kind of thing. So like I like to save this block, like in that deck, for example, I'll save this block for the triple strike, or I'll save this block for the critical, just depending on the situation. But yeah, don't just block willy-nilly. Sometimes your opponent won't attack into it, and that's honestly okay, because honestly, if they're not attacking, a lot of times they're either not getting advantage, or they're just not going to pressure you enough to kill you, right? So it's kind of a win-win situation. The only outs to this deck are actually in the mirror match for the most part, because a lot of these cards do answer it. But outside of the cards that reduce power, that ignore Barrier, there's not a whole lot of ways to answer Veku. So just a couple of notes about that card. In the mirror match, you might not want to play into it, because it can easily just get popped, and then not popped necessarily, but power decreased. And if it does get power decreased, you don't get your Gokus and Vegetas back, and you don't ramp. So that's something to note in the mirror match. You're not really going to want to go for that too often, but in most other matchups, especially the fairer matchups, this card really just helps you get there. And then we have 2 Ultimate Fusion Gogeta. This card's one of the best boss monsters in this deck. At one point I was playing Kefla, and I think Kefla's really good. I think it's really pressuring, and I think it can help clear battle cards. But then I kind of just realized that Gogeta is just pretty much better. Kefla draws you 2 cards, Gogeta draws you 2 cards on play. You don't even have to attack with it, so you don't have to worry about really getting Mafubud. Kale swings for 2 big single strikes, but Gogeta swings for 1 big double strike, and it's sparking. So you'll notice in this deck that there's no real overwhelms. I was messing with a couple Scientist Fu and a couple of the Fu Shroudeds, but there were a few times that like I tapped out to drop overwhelms, especially when it was back to Scientist Fu, and I couldn't kill my opponent, and then I didn't have the drop area for Dimension Magic. So in this build, I've gone mostly sparking. I've kind of just neglected overwhelms. Like, of course, you probably want to have Fu Shrouded in your side deck for certain matchups, because it just wins you the matchup outright. But in this matchup, I'm going mostly sparking, and so far it's worked really well. I really like the build that I'm at right now. It's still up to change in certain aspects, but it draws a ton of cards, and it plays a lot of powerful cards. So I'm really liking it at this point. You do have to save some tech room for those oppressive matchups like I mentioned, but I really like how the deck plays, and it has a horse in every race from what I've been testing. So we'll get on with the rest of the boss monsters. Dragon Fist is really good. Honestly, the bounce back to your opponent's hand is not super relevant. There's not a lot of barrier cards that you want to give your opponent back. The biggest one I can think of in this format is going to be the Boo Secret Rare, but a lot of times if you give it back to your opponent to their hand, they're just going to pretty much combo to the drop area and then just do the whole play over again, which is where like Dark Power Black Mass Sand can help, because if you have that thing just sitting on the board and your opponent has a Child's Wish for a second time, that can actually start to tax their hand, which is really good. So that can be relevant, not relevant too often. The most relevant thing is typically going to be the untap 2, because like I said before, if you drop this on turn 6, you attack, untap 2. If you were able to hold your leader Awaken off and then Awaken on that turn, you can untap 2 more, and then you have like your Foreseeing Hit live, right? So a Dragon Fist next to a Foreseeing Hit, typically you're not going to die in the following turn, and if you have the graveyard buildup, you can Dimension Magic, so that's really good as well. So just a couple notes there, trying to give you guys the best ways on how to play the deck, as well as give you the deck profile. So we have the Goku and Vegeta package that I'll touch on now. We've got 4 of the 1-drop Scry 3 Goku. You Scry 3 for a red or blue Veku and a Vegeta. and then we play 3 of the Harmonic Energy Goku. We don't play the 2-drop Goku because honestly, the scry effect's not that great on the 2-drop, and the other effect is just not really, it's very underwhelming, right? So I picked the 2 best Gokus to play in this deck, and I think the 7-7 split works pretty well. My leader honestly hits more often than not, either on the blue Veku or one of these Gokus and Vegetas. And then the Goku I use just to search the Vegetas for a few reasons. The number one reason being that I think it's much more important to find the Vegetas than it is to find the Gokus in terms of like having multiples, because in most matchups the Vegetas are very relevant. Right now attacking active modes isn't super duper relevant, right? But the minus 5k on this Vegeta here is really relevant, especially in the skillless matchup. You just answer their 1-drop Goku so that they can't just get free board presence, they can't just get free real estate, right? So you just constantly neg that. And then you have the Harmonic Vegeta, which is an amazing card in the mirror match. Decreasing the Veku by 10 is really, really relevant. And it comes up in a lot of other instances, especially when you can drop 2 of these guys. Let's say there's a 20k barrier guy your opponent has that you need to get rid of. It's really, really relevant. And then once you get into the bigger, later part of the game and you have a whole ton of energy, these guys just start to spiral into each other, right? So you get a Goku that gets you any Vegeta, or a Vegeta that gets you a Goku, and then you have the Scry 3 Goku, right? So that's why I don't play the Vegeta 1-drop. I think it's much more important to find the Vegetas than it is to find the Gokus, and I've really been happy with these ratios. And once in a while your leader's gonna miss. That's okay. That's totally fine. Then we'll get to Champa. He is our win condition of the deck. This used to be 1 Champa, 1 Tinus Fu, but like I said, I want to keep the sparking live. So Champa is just, it's a really good win condition, helps you get those sneaky wins in. Then we have 3 Veku Triumphant Might. Now this is another tech card I have in the main deck for Super Shenron. If Super Shenron wasn't so oppressive, I'd probably bump this to the sideboard and play some more threats. But I think it's really important that you are teched for the most oppressive matchup in the game, in the current meta right now. So I play this at 3 in the main deck. If you guys don't know, he's a Union Fusion for 1 red. He's normally a 4-drop, but for 1 red, you place a Goku and a Vegeta in the drop area, and you play his card, and he has Barrier. So this is the other thing that Harmonic Energy Vegeta answers is this guy in like the mirror match or anything like that. But this guy, he's basically a Borgos or a Whis, but he's a 4-drop Barrier 10k that your opponent can't just Crisis Crusher, which is really good. Now some Super Shenron decks do sideboard the Harmonic Vegeta, which is annoying, but that means that this card is going to be really, really good in game 1. So taking game 1 is already a huge advantage. And then they have to side deck in the Harmonic if they're even siding it, which I don't think a lot of players will sideboard it. I do think some of the better players will sideboard it, but they have to see it, they have to get it to the drop area, and they have to waste their Child's Wish on this. So that means you get bought basically an additional turn, which is really important. So between this and the Dark Power Black My Sand, I think this deck is teched to beat Super Shenron. And on top of that, we have the Unbreakable, which helps as well. You're playing against an aggro deck. Unbreakable just is a draw 10k combo. Coupled with Senzu Bean and Dimension Magic, this deck is ultra defensive, which I really, really like. I really enjoy these defensive type of decks. And for seeing hit, one of the best boss monsters in the game by far. So I hope you guys enjoyed that kind of in-depth deck profile. I think I gave you guys some good tips on how to play the deck personally. So yeah, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Again, this is in the testing phase for sure. Let me know what you would change. Let me know how you would play it. And thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Joey. This is World TCG, and I'll see you guys in the next video. You actually sat through all of that and made it to the end? I don't know how you did it, but now that you're here, you might as well hit the subscribe button that's right above me, or maybe check out some of these other videos. I don't know, and I guess we'll see you in the next one. I really don't know how you did it, but good on you.